It's rewind time, ladies and gentlemen, the 25-year anniversary of the Royal Rumble 2000, featuring the classic street fight from Triple H versus Cactus Jack. Myself and Nick Steve are in a hot seat, and we're going to be going through this hot show from Madison Square Garden in New York City. Of course, at the date of the show, like we say, January 23rd, the year 2000. In attendance in MSG was 19,231. The buy rate of the show, we're in the buy rate era, ladies and gentlemen, is 590,000 people. And the tagline for the show is "The Road to WrestleMania Begins," which I don't remember that being featured before that. So that's an interesting note as well, indeed. Nick Steve is on the hot seat. We're going to discuss all things throughout this pay-per-view. But first off, I'm going to ask what your excitement levels were when you know we were going to go back to the Royal Rumble 2000 out of 10, please.
Dude, the 2000 Royal Rumble is a core memory for me because it does get mentioned at some point in the show as well that over here in the UK, Channel 4 had bought the rights to certain pay-per-views in the year 2000, and the Royal Rumble was one of them. And I remember as a 15-year-old kid staying up till stupid o'clock in the morning watching this Royal Rumble. This Royal Rumble is a core memory for me when it comes to my childhood. Just everything. Surprisingly enough, though, like when we pre-discussed doing this one, I, for the life of me, could not remember Cactus Jack versus Triple H. Like, I remember everything else off of this card, apart from probably the best match on the card. I mean, I remember the video package. I just thought it was on a different show. But yeah, otherwise, like I said, core memory for me. Rose-tinted glasses, because this isn't the best Rumble match ever. But like I said, because I think I have fond memories of it, I was super excited to review this.
Yeah, me too. Super excited as well. Those fond memories. So it was a 10. This is one we've wanted to review for quite a few years, actually. It just felt like now, 25 years, it was the right time. Enter shock face emoji onto me, by the way, when you told me that you couldn't remember Triple H versus Cactus Jack. That was, like, for me, one of the main reasons I wanted to come back to this show. But when you also think about, Hardy's versus Dudley's tables match, Tazz versus Kurt Angle, obviously, the debut of Tazz also, it's just, there's a lot of things, especially the Rumble almost is not the most exciting thing of the show, which is mad to say for a Royal Rumble. It's the thing is, though, there's still a lot of noteworthy things from the Rumble match, and certainly there's a lot of things that I think a lot of people will want to hear us discuss about during the video.
Yeah, I mean, my stigma with Royal Rumbles is the amount of participants that legitimately have the chance to win the Royal Rumble, and I think I counted 4. And it's not great when you look at a Rumble. Like, for instance, we're talking about this year, 2025's Royal Rumble, and the 9 names they've currently announced at the time of recording all could be legitimate winners. That's 9 people. And bear in mind, we go back 25 years, and I can find 4 from 30. I know it's a different time and talent's different, but it's just one of them gripes I have with the Royal Rumble, that they throw in these participants that honestly have no chance of winning the Rumble. But again, rose-tinted glasses, I think, and like I said, it's not the greatest Royal Rumble, but it's just a great core memory.
I'm shocked you found 4, to be honest. It was down to 2 for me back in the day, but I can obviously rock and Big Show with the main storyline going into the Rumble match. Kane, I guess, is the 3rd one.
Yep.
Who was the 4th?
Do you know what? I might be wrong, and I might have actually only been 3, but I just give me a second. Oh no! Correction. I only had 3 as well. Rock, Big Show, and Kane. I don't know where I got the 4th one from. I think because X-Pac was coming in last, and X-Pac is kind of like in the 2000s one of the biggest names in the Rumble, and he ain't obviously got a chance of winning it, but you never know. But like I said, of the 30 participants, the same 3: Rock, Big Show, Kane.
He was actually beating 3 big dudes in a fatal 4-way a couple of months earlier. So I mean, he I suppose as a little guy could be the underdog story of that one, but as a heel, it doesn't kind of connect really when he'd gone back to DX. But of the matches that we've just talked about, what match was you most looking forward to going back and watching?
I mean, the Hardys and the Dudleys table match, because I remember that match again. It's core memory. I know how much fun it is. Didn't realize how fast paced it was. And then obviously the street fight, because I don't remember it. So I was glad to be going back and watching something that I just honestly didn't remember like a lick from. Like, I couldn't remember a single thing of it.
Well, for me, not to copy and paste answer, but obviously those are the 2 matches I was most looking forward to as well. Obviously, I remembered the street fight. And for me, I was as it's in my head of core as one of the best Royal Rumble matches that's not a Royal Rumble match. Does that make sense? I hope it makes sense.
Yeah.
For me, I was like, I want to relive it and see if I felt the same coming out at the end of it. And I think that, to be honest, it is a resounding yes. And I'm looking forward to discussing that in more detail later. But let's dive into the show then, shall we? Obviously, the first started with the video package for the show. I was going to get your take on this one, obviously. We have Cactus Jack, obviously, being brought in, obviously, instead of Mankind. We see how his Texas Deathmatch stuff that he done in Japan around that time period, and of course, how he's played the game previously, and obviously has come out a winner. He's actually, I believe, undefeated when he was Cactus Jack against Triple H or Hunter Hearst Helmsley back in '97. But Triple H is a different beast himself these days. He's willing to do whatever it takes, and he's willing to maim his opponents as well. Your thoughts of the build of the video package here for this street fight and for the show in general?
The show in general doesn't have. There's one good video package that I reckon that they have the whole show, and that's before the street fight. I think the one before the tag team match is just essentially it's old matches at times two speed. So although this does a little bit to sort of build the anticipation for that match, the one before the actual match I feel is a lot better. Every other video package on this show is not great, and it's very almost like you can tell this is 2000s because the quality is not there. And like I said, that the one before the tag team match is awful.
Yeah, the one for the tag team title match, New Age Outlaws Acolytes, is it's the pits.
Two times speed.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you, by the way. The Triple H Cactus Jack one before their match is 10 times better. They'd have been better just playing it twice, in my personal opinion. But that's just my take on it. But and the other ones, you can tell, for example, Hardy's and Dudley's, when they have their video package, it's like this started this past week on Raw and then it followed up on SmackDown. It's very small build for some of the matches going into the show, but it's what it is. But going into the opening match of the show was Kurt Angle against To Be Announced. Now, obviously, Kurt Angle does get onto the microphone beforehand, and I think the crowd had worked out who it was going to be because they were screaming for said wrestler that they wanted him to come through the curtain. Hadn't noticed that when I'd gone back with my older viewing, but now I'm perhaps maybe a bit more older, perhaps I'd like to say wiser, but I'll let you viewers judge that one. But at the same time, I seem to be able to notice that they were calling for it. But Kurt Angle, obviously, having a dig at the New York Knicks, saying they were waiting for a while for a title, which unfortunately still is true. I'm a Knicks fan myself. Kurt Angle said that he would be their hero for one night. And of course, for whoever was going to take on him that night, it would be something that they could tell the grandkids that they could face Kurt Angle and lose to him in Madison Square Garden. Of course, when the music would be to hit, it was none other than what everybody wanted. It was Tazz, the debut of, an ECW original, someone that was an ECW world champion, someone that had a lot of hype when he left ECW and was coming into WWE. And I don't know, he just looks like a mean dude when he comes to the ring. The way he walks, the way the towels over his head, the presentation is amazing. Look, you fast forward to 2025, I kind of have a similar vibe, when you watched Penta's debut just recently, coming in with that presentation, the star feel when they first walked through the door. Let's just hope Penta's not on commentary on SmackDown within a couple of weeks from now. But at the same time, Tazz has this really hot debut, doesn't he, here?
Yeah, man. I mean, I know initially when I first watched this, I didn't have a clue who Tazz was, but the music alone, gives you that ominous feeling. Like they drop the lights, the heartbeat notions that they play at the start of the music. It's all very, you're not ready for this kind of thing. And obviously, being in New York and having that ECW vibe, like you said, it's amazing how much you pick up on certain things going back and watching it 25 years later, because I don't think I've seen this since. I may have seen it maybe once, but to see everything that I'm kind of clued up to about now, like you said, the crowd are calling for Tazz. Didn't notice it originally. Obviously, 10 past 1 in the morning over here when I'm in bed, as a kid, trying to not wake my parents up. But he's presented, just presenting like a complete badass, like how Taz really should be. Always felt he was criminally underused on WWE though, kind of like this is his kind of almost his biggest moment, aside from maybe winning the hardcore title at some point, but this is ultimately, I think, one of the peaks of his career in WWE.
Unfortunately, yeah, it is. I think it doesn't really get much better after this. He gets one match with Triple H, I think, within the next couple of months, but then he ends up being the hero for ECW when obviously Mike Awesome leaves the company to go to WCW as the ECW champion. WWE doesn't want to have any of that, so for we really get WWE versus WCW for the ECW championship. Taz would then go to drop the championship a short time later to some ECW talent, but yeah, I mean. All in all, for me, I was a big Taz fan back in the 90s. Had some exposure to ECW. How right or wrong that is, I'll let you be the judge. But the Human Suplex Machine was one of the reasons that I was always invested in ECW at that point. So I know he was coming in. And there was like on the build, and I've had the opportunity to go and watch a lot of the build to this Royal Rumble in recent months. And, to just see that, we'd have the heartbeat and we'd have the orange coming through the arenas for multiple times on the road to the Royal Rumble. So you knew he was on the way, and he'd actually left ECW at November to Remember, which it was a couple of months earlier. So he'd been a free agent for a while. And obviously, like you say, he's being in New York, he's from Brooklyn. It just all kind of fit nicely together. And for this, it was kind of a magical moment. I know Taz himself on a interview that's been since then had said that actually he wished that no one knew who he was. He kind of felt like the second that everyone kind of cheered and roared for Taz, he knew at that point he was in trouble because WWE likes to make stars, and he feels that Vince wanted to make a star in him. But the fact that there was already one technically that had been created somewhere else was something that he probably felt maybe rubbed Vince the wrong way. Therefore, that's why the push didn't kind of work out to the way that maybe he and maybe others would have wanted.
Yeah, I mean, but to play devil's advocate, coming in to silence is almost a derogatory kind of thing. Like,
Agreed.
if you come in with a following, you're essentially bringing more eyes to the product, which, do you know what I mean? Kind of like, I think there's obviously pros and cons to both of it. I think personally, for me, if I was going into a company, I'd want people to know who I was, because I wouldn't want, like, you don't want to become almost the toilet break guy. Like, I don't know who he's fighting, and I'm just going to go to the loo. Do you know what I mean? Like, like I said, I would have preferred coming in knowing people who knew who I was.
I mean, to be honest, MSG is thunderous when he comes out. It's like, it's special debut. And regardless of how the career panned out afterwards, that debut is still something I think a lot of, if you are a wrestling fan from around that time period, you remember this. This isn't something that's, like, oh, I don't really remember Taz debuting. Like, everyone goes back to it. And that's why when we've now had the Penta debut, it's not the only channel to turn around and say, oh, I remember. It's a bit like when Taz debuted at the Rumble. Like, it's something that everyone's talked about.
Yeah, I mean, like, dude, the amount of times we've sat there and just talked about memorable debuts, like even recently, like AJ Styles in the Royal Rumble 2016, Jericho on Monday Night Raw got massive pops, and it's kind of like, really, I don't know. I find it kind of weird that having a following and people knowing who you are when you come into the company is a bad thing. I just find it really strange.
I do as well. I mean, I can't say I agree with the comments, but I'd heard it on an interview, so I just thought I thought I'd share it as it's. I think this is to show that we have the relevance to talk about it if we were ever going to have it. But all in all, going into the match itself, it's not very long. It's only 3 minutes and 16 seconds. Kurt Angle does seem to take a bit of offense at the start, but he gets back into it, hitting an overhead suplex on the floor. Then actually does a belly-to-belly overhead suplex in ring. But Taz hits the variations of suplexes, and that's what Taz is known for as a human suplex machine. Crosses the arms over Kurt Angle on the second rope and throwing him overhead belly-to-belly from the top. Again, number of Taz plexes in the middle of the ring, including one of my favorites, the T-bone suplex. Then applies the Tazz mission, he calls it in WWE, and of course choking out Kurt Angle to get the victory. Like I said, 3 minutes and 16 seconds. Kurt Angle needs to be taken out on a stretcher after the match. There is questions from commentary if the finish of the match should have stood, should it have been legal, should it have been a disqualification. Jerry Lawler insisting, because Kurt Angle at this point was undefeated in WWE, that should remain, since the fact that he was choked out rather than actually, I suppose, pinned at that point.
Yeah, I mean, there is a backstage interview, or backstage with Angle and some ENTs later on, where he turns around and he bangs on about, oh, I was choked out, that doesn't count, that means I'm still undefeated. And I remember that being his whole shtick for ages afterwards, that he was still undefeated, that didn't count, blah, 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 blah. And back to the match, dude, short and sweet. almost kind of the perfect debut you want to have, almost not giving away everything, but still kind of showing some of the best stuff you can do. Like the overhead belly to belly he does off the top rope, I think is great. But then again, I think that's also down to being wrestling Kurt Angle in this match, which is why he has a great debut. Short and sweet. I mean, there's not really much else I can say about it. I mean, I gave this 2.5 stars. I thought just for the basis that it's Tazz, he had a decent reception and he put on half decent display.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, it's the whole angle, the whole match, the whole thing. It's a hot start to the show. It's all the first 10 minutes, and we're moving on to the next match.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like it's very well presented as a package here of like, oh, look, we've got a star here, big pop. He's hit some big moves in. He's completely laid out an undefeated wrestler. And obviously, then like the heel is finding a way to get his heat after the match. It's all perfect when you lay it down. Really, the only thing I would say is I would have been happy to have seen these two go for 15 minutes, but like you say, job is executed perfectly in 3.5. And I'm going to share your sentiments with a 2.5 star rating.
Oh, that's not nice to hear. But yeah, it's like I said, it's just again the whole show in general. Everything up to the Rumble is very fast paced. Like almost like once you get through all the normal matches, you're at I think you're at like the 1.5 hour mark or whatever, and still like 1 hour and 10 minutes to go, and there's only the Rumble left, and it just feels like almost feels like there was a match missing off this card.
And that's mad, really, because for most Rumbles, you tend to have about 4 matches in the Rumble.
Yeah.
Matches are usually longer, but I think there's like 5 or 6 here. And like you say, they tend to quite fast-paced matches. But yeah, it's interesting stuff, and it's a fun way to kick off the show. Interesting enough as well, Dave Meltzer gives this a 2-star rating. We're going to move on next then to the tables match between the Hardy Boyz and the Dudley Boyz. Now, obviously, the Hardy Boyz did say that they didn't want Terry to come to ringside as this one is going to be dangerous. And to be honest, like you say, fast-paced, and you're probably right, this was a dangerous match. So very early on, we see that people were moving tables to stop them their partners going through them. Jeff Hardy was backdropped in the ring. Matt Hardy had moved the table. Jeff Hardy runs across the rails on the outside, of course, which he famously does, and he ends up running into a table that was thrown in his face by Bubba Ray Dudley. That looked quite brutal. Hardy's do a double suplex to Bubba Ray off the second rope, and D-Von moves the table. Just a quick note on this one of particular. I felt D-Von could have actually stopped the suplex, but instead just went, I'll move the table.
Exactly. there's a couple of spots like that, but yeah, just honestly, the amount of time it took him, like he moved the table and he just kind of stood there and waited for Bubba to take it. I was like, well, great tag team partner you are.
So intelligent work from Devon. Yes, your partner's getting battered still. If anything, it hurts just as much landing in the ring as it does going through the table. But yeah, whatever. It's minor nitpicks, I guess. The Hardys bring a ladder into play. I wonder if that's the first tease of TLC. Clotheslines that ladder into both of the Dudleys. Matt Hardy then uses a chair to complete the full TLC. Matt Hardy climbs on the ladder, which is on the floor, and Devon meets him on that ladder. Bubba's laid out on the table. Matt Hardy punches Devon off and he goes into the rails. And one little side note I noticed that it's very minor. He barely touches the fan, but it's literally Devon goes and sort of brushes against the fan. The way the fan sells it as if he's been knocked out is kind of funny to watch. It's just a really fun little note.
I haven't seen that. I'll have to go back and check that out. I was too busy watching the match to notice that. I'll have to go check it out.
It's just a minor detail. If you get a chance, just go back and see that. It's just funny the way that the fan just kind of like just brushes himself backwards. It's quite cool. But of course, if you blink, you miss something, because at that moment, Matt Hardy's at the top of the ladder, Bubby Ray's on the table. What you don't see in shot is that Jeff Hardy's probably on the apron or on the top turnbuckle, and we get to see the Hardys do their leg drop splash to Bubba Ray through the table. So the first Dudley goes through a table at that point, and of course, both members of each team need to go through. And we learn quite quickly as well that it needs to be an offensive move, not putting yourself through a table, because we find then that Devon is actually laid up it's between a table which is laid between the apron and the steel steps. Matt Hardy then goes to do a splash off the top, misses, and goes through the table. Jeff Hardy immediately then tries to go and do a suicide dive, but actually misses Devon as well and goes for a table within seconds of one another. And I mean, if you'd listen to that without any sound, you'd immediately go, and in today's wrestling market, That's match
That's
done. The
over.
Dudleys would have won.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Dudleys had to put the Hardys through a table. It's not a defensive move, has to be an offensive move. Well, Matt does go through a table very quickly because Bubba actually powerbombs him from the second rope through a table, and the table was actually balanced on some steel steps as well. They then all fight near the entrance as well, with 4 tables being set up. Bubba Ray and Jeff Hardy fight into the balcony. Bubba wants to jump on Matt Hardy, who's laying at the tables at the time. I don't know why, because Matt's already been put through one. But Jeff lands a low blow and then actually sends Bubba off of the balcony to go through 4 tables, which is a very vicious looking spot. And then Matt actually positions Devon on another table, and Jeff Hardy at the top of that balcony does a swanton off the top. Just over 10 minutes this match, and the Hardy Boys pick up the win. And let's be fair, it's certainly a breakout tag team match for both of these teams here.
Oh, dude, this match is so much fun, and it just doesn't stop. Like, there's no rest holds or anything. Like, not. I think you were very kind in not mentioning the most horrific chair shots that were delivered in this match, because the first one I think Matt does, oh no, Jeff does it to Bubba, and you just see it and you're just like, oh my god, like I forgot I used to watch this back in 2000. I think I counted in total there's 10 chair shots to the head in this match alone, and I was like, just horrific. But dude, I kind of miss the old steel steps as well, just for the fact that when they make that contraption where they put the table bridged between the apron and the steel steps, and I was like, why do we get this inventive stuff anymore, man? And then obviously Bubba put in Matt through the table that's elevated by the ring steps. Again, just another very intuitive, very clever spot that you kind of almost don't get nowadays. But otherwise, yeah, this is just non-stop from the word go. The spot as well where I think Matt does a leg drop through the table and Devon rolls off one table onto another, and then Jeff comes over. Just so quick and so fast-paced. And again, going back to what I said a little while ago, this whole show just flows by through the first normal matches, and this is another one, like Bubba taking the 2 head chair shots and a low blow and then falling onto the 4 tables. Just, man, the props to him for doing it. And then the swanton is just fantastic, man. This is just so much fun, so exciting, and like I said, it doesn't hold up, it doesn't let off. It's just it's from 0 to 100, and it just stays there for the whole time.
Absolutely. Obviously, WWE have done a pay-per-view known as Fastlane in recent years, and obviously this one feels like it's just in the fast lane from start to finish. It's an absolute banger, I think the kids would say these days.
Yeah, man, absolutely. I mean, I gave this a 3.5. Like, again, without substance, because this is a match that's built off of a week. There's no video package. This is kind of just essentially a story. It's just a tables match, really. So that's the thing I was missing from it, was the story. But otherwise, I thought this was highly entertaining. And I mean, I'll make a note later on that for me, this is like the golden era of tag team wrestling in WWE. Like when you've got the Dudleys, the Hardys, Edge and Christian, Farouk and Bradshaw. I mean, even others like the Headbangers. Like there was some other tag teams scattered in there, but this is when my love for tag team wrestling honestly was cemented.
Yeah, I feel the same for you. It's a very special time period. Obviously, like I say, Hardys, Dudleys, Edge and Christian have gone on to have some magical moments in these styles of matches, and it feels like, we said about we did a retro review of No Mercy 1999, which was not too long ago. We recommend people go and check it out. Hardys versus Edge and Christian, redefining the ladder match forever. This match put the tables match on the map. I don't know if there was many tables matches before this, but certainly this went on the map here, and it defined something that to this day you still hear people scream, "We want tables." It's synonymous now.
Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing I noticed was that the tables didn't get a bigger reaction as what they do now. The ladder gets a bigger pop, and I was like, you can see how times have changed and how we want tables now. And just again, it's a period difference that you can tell these little things apart. But yeah, I mean, dude, they obviously go on to TLC and everything else after it, and pay-per-view gets named after it. And these guys just honestly, like, for me, this tables match as well just cements that this is the best way to do a tables match. Like, if you're going to go back and do a tables match in a tag team format, this is how it should be done. It should be offensive moves that put them through the table. It should be a case of not going through the table by yourself because, do you know what I mean? This makes a hell of a lot more sense. I think the only flaw I found of it was, like you said, they put Matt on top of the 4 tables that are stacked on top of each other when it's Jeff that needs to go through them. So I think that was like I said, my only flaw with it. Otherwise, I thought this was great, man.
The only other counter you could say of why it's okay is because it's like, well, hang on, the dude's back up and fighting. Like, he's not out of it. Because if you can get it to 2-on-1, you can get the person you need through a table. So I do still see the logic in it, but at the same time, there is that case of like, well, you know, Jeff's on the balcony there. It's more important to throw him off of the balcony to put him through the table than it is to jump on Matt. But it's little nitpicks in what's otherwise a fantastic match. And you've gone for 3.5 stars. I've gone for 4. I really had a fun time. I know, like you say, it's lacking maybe some story, but for me, it's almost like it's the prequel to what is ahead, you know, and it's like the first chapters of what ends up being a fantastic story between these teams that go on for a number of years. So yeah, I don't care if there's rose tinted glasses. I'm wearing them. I'm wearing them proudly.
I probably underrated this, to be fair. Like, we'll get onto the street fight later, but like, you are right. This probably deserves a higher than 3.5 rating. I was just kind of trying to be fair, and bearing in mind I hadn't watched the street fight yet, so I was kind of like, I should have gone back and changed this, really. But yeah, I know what you mean. It is the prequel to TLC, essentially.
Pretty much, yeah. It's certainly 1/3 of it anyway, for sure. But this match was 10 minutes and 38 seconds. And if those are wondering, Mr. Dave Meltzer's rating, and this is where it might put some balance in this, 3.25 star rating from Dave. So actually, it's closer to your rating than he is to mine.
Very, again, a different time period, and Dave is probably rating matches in a different way. Like, it's the same with what we're doing now, really. We're going back 25 years. We're watching it 25 years later and using the mindset that we have now rather than the mindset. Because I'm pretty sure if when as a 15-year-old kid, this would have got 5 stars from me.
This would have had more stars. This would have been a solar system, probably, for me back in year 2000. So
it's a good choice.
Something that they probably wouldn't get it probably would have been in favour of at the start of it, but not at the finish.
I cannot wait for Dave's rating.
Spoiler alert, there was no rating from Dave Meltzer on this one. I know. Not judging like Sergeant Slaughter, Dave Garea. We also had the likes of Freddie Blassie. We had, hang on, I'm going to get my notes
Fabulous
up here.
Moolah and Johnny V and Andy Richter.
That's it, from the Conan O'Brien show as well. When he was a late one that just sort of snuck in at ringside, almost like someone that's like gone into a strip club that wasn't meant to be there, you know. Yeah. Anyway, going into this, then it's exactly what it says on the tin. Unfortunately, for those, women's wrestling was not of the respected at that time period. There were some female performers that, whether it's in character or not, were not happy being out there in swimsuits. Ivory and Luna Vachon being 2 of them. So obviously there were 2 of the people involved in this match. Also, we had the likes of we had BB involved
Ivory,
there.
Terry Runnels, Jacqueline, BB, Luna, and the Cat.
That's the ones, yeah. Fantastic. And yeah, obviously, Mae Young is a late contestant into this, so we'll go through everyone one by one. Jerry Lawler is the master of ceremonies, and I mean, if there's nothing else to like of this certainly is my. Sometimes Jerry Lawler has all these cheesy lines, but he does have a really killer line that he gives to the Think. Think you wouldn't enjoy this because these women are not inflatable.
Hey, we learned some interesting things about the Think tonight, and that's one of them.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, Jerry Lawler doesn't get a clap for much else that goes on during this, but he'll get it for that one line for the Thing, because I did quite enjoy that. But yeah, obviously, Mae Young comes out, and at the end of this, it looks like that. I don't know. You could pick your favorite of who you think's going to win. I don't know. I think they were probably balancing towards the Cat. She was the women's champion at the time, but who knows? Mae Young comes out and she says, "Well, I'm involved with this," and I'm quoting this. I'm quoting it from what she said. "Everyone wants to see my puppies," and thankfully,
so
thankfully, Netflix have censored it. So we don't have to
No,
see it in the 2000s.
that's actually from the network as well. That's not Netflix. That's the original. I think home DVD release censoring, because I remember seeing that come up when I think when I watched it the second time.
Well, it wasn't on Channel 4. I can tell you that for free.
Oh, definitely not.
And yeah, I mean, the thing is, I've this is probably the reason I've not really wanted. I've wanted to review this show, but this has been one of my reasons, been reluctant to review it. But now we're here talking about it. Obviously, Channel 4 was UK channel, terrestrial, so you didn't have to pay for it. So when you had the ability to see these shows for nothing, it was like, oh, this is amazing, and this is the first ever one. And WWE, within half an hour of the show, have someone that's nearly 80 years old exposing the breast.
A 76-year-old woman getting her boobs out.
Yeah.
Hey, back in the 2000s, Eurotrash and Channel 5 were a thing, man. Do you know what I mean? And they used to put some stuff on there, I'm telling you that. So Mae Young isn't half as bad as what we used to get on terrestrial telly back in the day.
Although, if you believe the alleged rumors, Channel 4 were livid with this. They were not happy, and that there was a rocky relationship with them and WWE from that point onwards.
Well, dude, can you blame them? Like, dude, honestly, it's horrific. Just like I cringed inwardly because I knew what was going to happen. I remember all of this. But the fact that Mae Young, bless her, at 76 years old, wants to be the absolute trooper and get her breasts out for the world to see. Fair game, man. Fair game. You win. You deserve to win, Mae Young. And let's be fair. She the only one technically that was in a swimsuit. I mean, the others were in bikinis or modeling outfits. They're not really technically a swimsuit. And the cat's in bubble wrap, for God's sake. So she's the rightful winner in terms of a swimsuit contest, but Jesus Christ.
Well, I can say the judges had voted unanimously as well for Mae Young to win. And do you know what? To put a positive spin, because that women's wrestling, it's come forward a lot. We're great to see it's come forward a lot.
Leaps and bounds.
Leaps and bounds, thank goodness. And like, I can imagine Vince McMahon was probably pissing himself laughing backstage with this. Yep. But all I can say is that it's more or less an echoes what you said about Mae Young. She was up for it. Like, it didn't matter what. Yeah, it didn't matter what it was. She went through a table off a balcony. Yeah, she gave birth to a hand to Mark Henry. Like, it didn't matter what the storyline was. She was game to be involved. Trooper. And yeah, Trooper. And that deserves some respect, if nothing else, to come away from this.
Yeah, like it's not very often you would find someone of that age who's willing to do that in front of, do you know what I mean, 500,000+ people. And dude, like I said, just props to her, man. Like, I think she passes away in like 2014. She goes on to be like what 80. Nearly 90 years old, I mean. So, and she was still willing to do that kind of stuff even at that age. So yeah, just props to her, man.
Yeah, absolute legend, and obviously, great in-ring competitor for a time period as well when she was competing in ring. Probably not in the year 1999, 2000. She competed in the ring then, although she did do so. But yeah, I mean, obviously, rightfully, she had a Mae Young Classic as well in later years given to her. Again, thankfully, not for this work, but for her earlier work, certainly. But yeah, we don't need to give a star rating for this either, thankfully. But yeah, we will move on in the meantime.
I forgot to get one. I was interested to see if David would give her one.
Well, we then get to go over to Times Square. This always gives me a bit of nostalgia feeling as well. WWF New York as well. Get to see Jonathan Coachman, a lot of fans there as well. Went to New York, and I didn't realize I'd been to WWF New York because it didn't exist when I was there. It's actually now it's now the Hard Rock Cafe nowadays.
Hard Rock Cafe, yeah.
Yeah, so I didn't realize I've technically been inside there. Just it was nothing to do with WWE at the time. So
yeah, no, I always one of the things I wanted to, like, as soon as they announced it, I was like, I want to go there. I want to go watch a pay-per-view in New York, Times Square. Like, I think that'd be the coolest thing ever. And then yeah, unfortunately, it didn't last very long, did it? Maybe a year or so.
I think maybe 1-2 years the most. I'd say. Yeah. It's a shame it didn't take off the way I think they wanted it to, and I imagine the rent for that place must have been extortionate being in Times Square. But hey, it's what it is, I guess. But we move on to the Intercontinental Championship. First off, it's Chyna and Chris Jericho. They are co-champions at this point, which is I believe a first in WWE around that time period. And the reason for it was that they both had a draw, so they were both proclaimed the champion. And then they would have to make sure that when they defended the title, it was one of them defending it, and then they had to make sure that they would keep winning, keep holding that title. And Hardcore Holly was the one chasing at the time, had won and beat both of them in non-title matches, but when it came to the actual thing, the singles matches, I think had been screwed over. Therefore, it led to the triple threat match here on this show. And they had to decide who was going to walk out as the champion. And Chyna and Chris Jericho couldn't agree, so Earl Hebner took the title from them and said, well, neither of you are going to walk down there with it. The winner will walk away with it instead, which I suppose seems a fair thing to do. The match itself, not going to lie, not my favorite match on the show, but we do see an interesting moment where Chyna and Jericho both do a splash off the top rope onto Hardcore Holly, both going for the pin at the same time. I mean, Hardcore Holly does kick out, thankfully, to stop any more confusion. Hardcore Holly then would kick out of a pedigree from Chyna as well. We don't see many people kick out of a pedigree in general, but this one, of course, was Chyna's one. There was a Doomsday splash from the top rope from Chris Jericho on that Doomsday to Chyna, got a near fall as well. We see Chyna hit Hardcore Holly with a steel chair, goes for the walls of Jericho, and that's when Jericho lands a bulldog onto Chyna, hits the lion salt, and pins her 1, 2, 3. So Jericho is the undisputed Intercontinental Champion. Your thoughts of this triple threat match?
First of all, I can't believe you skipped over the fact that Hardcore Holly allegedly weighs 400 pounds. Because Fink announces it, and I'm like, what? Why is that a thing? But yeah, just do it. And obviously Jericho having his classic break the walls down music, just great to hear, and the whole Jericho persona, the Madison Square Jericho, just the nostalgia feel alone from Chris Jericho in the 2000s is great. A match I thought was entertaining. Honestly, going in not remembering story beats and stuff like that, I honestly thought Hardcore Holly was in this match to take a pinfall. So when we got the result of Jericho pinning Chyna, I was kind of like, what was the point in having Holly in here? If you know what I mean, you could have just done a straight up 1 versus 1. But I'm pretty sure like he was involved in that scene for a while back then. But some great offensive stuff in there. Like there's some good chops by Holly and Jericho, like Gunter S chops at some point in here. At the start when they dish out some slaps, Chyna is the one that holds back. Bearing in mind, Holly and Jericho absolutely slapped 7 bells out of each other. I didn't mind this match, honestly. I just thought you can tell that Chyna is a bit of a sore thumb in there because she obviously doesn't have, I wouldn't say possibly the experience of wrestling like 2 men, but like for the timepiece and for Chyna being the only woman to this day to still hold the IC chart title, I still think it's pretty cool, man. Like I said, it's not the greatest match, but I still enjoyed it.
I think they'd had a couple of matches with Chyna and Chris Jericho previously. This is opinion based. I don't think they had the best chemistry in ring together. So I think that's possibly why
Jericho
they went.
Carries her.
Yeah, I mean that's the vibe I got from around that time period, if I'm honest. And I think Hardcore Holly was in there just to give just a bit more like of a safety net to protect during this match, which does make sense in hindsight. But yeah, at the time I would agree with you. It's like, why is Hardcore Holly there? Doesn't make any sense. But I mean, as a match itself, I will be honest, I got more into it from the second half of the match. I wasn't so invested in the whole first half of the match, but I will just make quote that around that time period, both Hardcore and Crash Holly were both being announced as being 400 pounds each. It just was their gimmick. It's when Crash Holly would carry the scales to the ring. So yeah, I mean, I don't know why they were doing the super heavyweight gimmick, but that's what they were doing.
Well, to be fair, that's why The Rock was worried about him when it comes to the Rumble, to be fair, to 400-pound guy. Reason to be worried.
Absolutely. Well, this match only 7 minutes and 38 seconds. Jericho walking away as IC champion. I'll ask your star rating, please.
I'd probably rate this too high. I went 2 3/4. That's way too high for what it was.
That's fine. Yeah, but if you enjoyed it, it's different, isn't it? I mean, for me, it's a 2-star. I've gone 2. It's just because of the fact I think once you got to the closing parts of the match, I then got invested. But before that, I don't know. I don't know what it is. I've watched this match now about 6 or 7 times, and I'm the same every time. I switch off until we get to the latter stages, and it's just I think it's always going to be that way. So yeah, I'm going to go with a 2-star rating.
For how short it is, this one feels surprisingly long, like in
Yeah,
places, and it's kind of like. I mean, I gave the first match a 2.5 star, and I thought, look, this match lasted a little bit longer than that. So it's the only reason why I gave it 2 3/4 was the fact that they'd been given a bit more time. There was some innovative offense in there, especially like that Doomsday crossbody spot that they do. Thought was great, and just to finish alone, Jericho hitting the Bulldog and the Lion Salt for the win. But again, yeah, I know what you mean, man. I think like for me. Like, I think it's more nostalgic and more like fun to play off the fact that Chyna was IC champion than to actually go back and watch it. And that's
mm.
nothing against her. It's just that intergender wrestling isn't really a thing back there. Like this is probably one of the few times they've ever had it in WWE. And it's kind of like you can tell that it's not a regular occurrence there. So, like I said, I think I enjoy it more for the fact that it happened rather than actually what was on.
Yeah, I think that's fair. That's a fair comment there. I will just say that I think you also made a great point of the fact that this is the one match that feels like it drags. It's only 7.5 minutes long, but yet it feels like it's 15 for me. And I don't think that's the reason
Yeah.
why I struggle with it. But I've looked at Dave Meltzer's rating. I'm going to double check it one more time because life. This is what happens when you record and when you're doing these things. But one and a quarter star he's gone for. So he really thought this one was not
Wow.
up to standards. Yeah, a bit of a lower
Yeah,
rating.
apparently, I'm blowing smoke up their backsides then.
Well, you mentioned about The Rock. Obviously, it was with Michael Cole. And like you say, he's most concerned about Crash Holly and Headbanger Mosh in the Royal Rumble. It tells Michael Cole to have some shut up juice, which classic Rock at the time. And he doesn't care what the Big Show thinks. He hopes that those are the last two in the match so he can eliminate him and be the best champion after winning at WrestleMania. Kind of spoiler for later on, if you ask me, really, giving away the final two. But it's what it is.
Yeah, dude, honestly, going back and watching this now, 25 years later, that really irritates me that he gives away essentially the finish of the match. It just honestly peed me off. And obviously, this is the point where he's going through that phase when he guarantees it. And he had a run of guarantee and stuff and being successful. And it was kind of like the one time that his guarantee fails, this it's dropped all of a sudden. And almost been like it could have been a bigger thing than what it was, but it just was very short lived.
Absolutely, yeah, totally agree with that indeed there. We move on then to the New Age Outlaws defending their tag team championships against the Acolytes. Now, just a bit of background story. The Acolytes had won a battle royal at Armageddon in 1999 to get this number one contenders match. They had to wait a long time to get the match also. This is during the McMahon-Helmsley era as well, so they put the Acolytes through pretty much hell up until this show to try and stop them from getting to the match to protect the Outlaws, but no such luck. The Outlaws technically were a bit scared, you could say, of the Acolytes in the video package as well. And of course, they did fight in Tim White's bar, which of course was always a thing that was classic back in the day. Whenever that makeover was needed in the bar, put the Acolytes in there to destroy some tables and pull cues and all the rest of it and have a good old bar fight. So yeah, fun stuff for that indeed. But yeah, the video package doesn't show it to its best. And to be honest, the match doesn't show it to its best either. 2.5 minutes long, this only. Bradshaw hit the clothesline from Hell, Billy Gunn. Billy Gunn goes to the outside. We see Farouk hit the spine buster on Road Dogg as the referee goes to make the pinfall count. Gunn makes a miraculous recovery, pulls the referee outside the ring. Bradshaw takes out Gunn, but also takes out the referee on the floor also. Then the Acolytes do a double powerbomb to the Road Dogg. X-Pac comes out to aid the New Age Outlaws, does a spinning heel kick to Bradshaw. Obviously, that's when we see then Farouk going after the Road Dogg on the outside. So Billy Gunn just come and hit the Famouser and get a pinfall on Bradshaw. There's literally all the detail for the entire match, it feels there. Short, sweet, and a bit disappointing with the fact that it's been building for like 6-7 weeks.
The definition of a bog standard 2000s TV match. This, like, honestly, short, sweet, done, finished with. As soon as X-Pac come out, my brain just all of a sudden went, oh yeah, this match is about to end now. And like, you automatically knew that this was short-lived, like, forgetting everything that actually goes on. Yeah, criminal, man. Like you said, they built this for weeks. Like, the table match, which has had a week build, gets 15 minutes. This match, which has had 7 weeks of build, gets 2 minutes. It's shocking, man. Like, honestly, such strange booking. Like, dude, to be honest, I gave it a 2 because it was essentially a bang average TV match for me.
It feels like, because these four are all in the Royal Rumble match where the Hardys and Dudleys are not. So it's kind of like, you've got to compete twice, so let's just get this match done early doors.
Yeah.
It feels, although the Acolytes don't spend long in the Rumble either, but it's a very short night for
Road
them for
Dogg
having
spends
two
half the time
matches.
hugging the bottom rope.
That's it's the one detail I've not written down for the Royal Rumble for you, so I'm glad you got it in nice and early. But yeah, I mean, this is it's disappointing for me on this one. Two teams that could have better chemistry if they and could have a better match if they were given a bit of time. But this is probably that match that was missing off the card for you, actually, because it's that short. But yeah, 1 star from me.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've probably criminally overrated it, but for me, it's bog standard TV time match, that one.
I've gone and looked at Dave Meltzer's rating. Dud.
Oh, understandable. Understandable.
It's understandable.
I can't argue with Dave.
No, not on that one. Well, you see their faces next to us. It's time to talk about that street fight for the WWE Championship. It is Triple H versus Cactus Jack. We've got the great video package that we'll go through quickly as well for you. Triple H winning the championship on the first Raw of 2000 from the Big Show. Mankind had been fired, though, of course, losing the pink slip on a pole match to The Rock, I think a week or two before. This led to pretty much a bit of Mickey take with Mankind. I think it was Midian that was dressed up as Mankind and Have a Bad Day segments. And I can tell you, going watching them back, they are long and painful, so don't do that. It's better in this video package. But Mankind does have a sit-down interview with Jim Ross of his unhappiness of the fact that they would take someone's livelihood away. Again, we're in the McMahon-Helmsley era, so they very much have taken over the company from Vince and just want to dominate, have their people on top. But that comes to a bit of a halt after pretty much the superstars all revolt around the ring and all prepared to walk out. This is what gets Mankind reinstated. Mankind makes the challenge for the match against Triple H for the Royal Rumble, which Triple H accepts. Of course, later in the evening, though, Mankind is put through a table, is blooded up as well, with that pedigree going through the table. So Mankind realizes that he's not ready for a street fight with Triple H at the Royal Rumble, which leads to the iconic return of Cactus Jack. And of course, Cactus Jack has faced Triple H before, as we've mentioned previously, and has been successful enter in this match. And yeah, brilliant video packages. NXT said at the start of the video, I agree with that as well. So we'll move on to the match instantly. And just to say, there is a lot of notes for this match because it's an absolute banger.
Yeah, tell me about it.
I mean, this match as well, just to quickly go through the time of it, is 26 minutes and 51 seconds. So you can imagine as well. Street fight as well. The toys are out to play. We even kick off the notes here. Look, Triple H lands a chair shot to the head of Cactus Jack, but Cactus quickly gets up. He lands a leg drop on Triple H, who has a chair over his head as well. We see a backdrop to Triple H into the crowd, where Cactus then wants to brutalize Triple H in the aisle. He's actually backdropping him onto wooden pallets. He's throwing him face first into the entrance doors and into like the trash cans on the side as well. But Triple H eventually lands a back suplex drop to Mick Foley on this trash can as well. Cactus, though, will get himself a barbed wire 2x4 from under the ring. Triple H has to land a low blow, though, to stop himself being hit with it, but then actually hits Mick Foley repeatedly with the barbed wire. Cactus, though, gets a shot himself in there with a form of a low blow with that 2x4, but the ref gets rid of that weapon and gives it to Hugo Simovinovich. I hope I've said that correctly, the Spanish commentator. Cactus, though, gets advantage back in the match and wants that weapon back. He hits Hugo because Hugo refuses to give it to him, and Hugo, to be fair, sells the knockout so well. He looks like someone that's drunk at a wedding that's had one drink too many at the end of the night. It's absolutely fantastic the way he falls down. But of course, opens up Triple H. Cactus Jack, who after hitting him with multiple shots, the face is pretty much like a crimson mask. Cactus goes for a pile driver on the table, and this is where I'm going to come to you, to NXT, because you pointed out this note to me. Earl Hebner, just as that pile driver is going to be hit, seems to do a little wave on the Triple H's face. No, he's not doing a John Cena's "You Can't See Me," although it kind of looks like that. But that is Triple H's moment to reverse and do a back body drop to Cactus Jack, who goes for the table, and Triple H also does so as well.
Yeah, I mean, just one of the things, like, there's so many things that we notice in wrestling nowadays, and this one, honestly, to this day, I've never seen. And I just didn't understand what, like, I was watching it, and I had to go back and went, what is Earl Hebner doing? Because, like, Cactus Jack has got Triple H in a pile driver position. Hebner takes the monitors off of the announcer's table, but all of a sudden, he just sticks his hand under and he's just start waving it in front of Triple H's face, and I'm like, is it meant to be a signal for something? I just thought it was really weird. I mean, like, if you're trying to check to see if the guy's still conscious, I mean, he's standing, isn't he? Like, I didn't understand it, man. Very, very weird, sort of secrets from the dark side of the ring that you're not supposed to know about, and like, just one that I really want to know the answer to now because I don't know what it was for.
My imagination is that because there is another pile driver later on another announce table, that I'm imagining you're right. That is a signal of this. Reverse this one. This is the one to reverse. We come to the other one later. Because obviously Triple H has lost a lot of blood at this point as well, especially for that time period. That was sort of a normal thing you would see. I think today, I don't think you'd see that as much. You may see it occasionally, but not as much as this. And probably it's just a reminder for Triple H. But yeah, I had never noticed it before, and I was glad that you had actually mentioned it, to be honest. I thought it was quite fun. But yeah, anyway, going back to this then, Triple H, like I said, reversed it. So Foley had gone through the table. Triple H then sends Cactus over the steps as well, and also brutally puts his leg on into the steps as well, with a crossbody attempt as well. Triple H gets handcuffs, puts them on Cactus Jack, looks to do the same sort of, same sort of attack that The Rock did back in '99 with all those chair shots to the head and to the body. They go all the way to the aisleway where The Rock comes out and this time actually protects Mankind, or Cactus Jack this year, hits Triple H with one chair shot to the head as well. A cop takes the handcuffs off of Cactus Jack, and that's when we get Cactus hitting a pile driver on the announcer's table to Triple H. And yeah, the table doesn't give. Ouch. But Foley then goes and gets some thumbtacks, brings them all into the ring. Very uncommon at that sort of time period, very common today. Stephanie, though, comes out from backstage and she gets onto the ring apron, probably enough to distract Cactus Jack as his back body dropped into the thumbtacks. Triple H then will hit his pedigree, and it's actually a 1-2, and actually Cactus Jack kicks out, which Madison Square Garden not used to seeing. It gets to see two in one night, but of course one of them is Triple H's. Big pop there that Cactus is still in this. Of course, he's around from the New York era as well. And then we see one more pedigree, though, done into the thumbtacks, and my word, ouch, that's an OMG moment, gets the 3 count. Triple H bloodied, leaving on the stretcher as well, but Cactus gets back to his feet, comes and brings Triple H back, and she throws him off the stretcher into the ring apron and hits him with one more barbed wire shot to the head before Foley walks out standing tall, which of course leads them to have one more match inside Hell in a Cell at No Way Out 1 month later, which of course would be the retirement match at that period for Cactus Jack, which would last of all of 3 weeks. Your thoughts of Triple H versus Cactus Jack in a street fight for the WWF Championship?
Dude, honestly, like, just to go back to the start, Cactus Jack's music is one of my favorite in wrestling. Like, he's just such a dirty guitar that it's so awesome. But dude, he no-sells a shot with a bell to start with, and I'm like, what is this? Like, the bell used to be, the ring bell used to be a devastating weapon, and Cactus Jack's no-sells it. I mean, he no-sells a chair shot as well. We didn't really touch on it, but the entranceway to MSG and how they had it set up with the brick wall style with the graffiti, the taxi cab above, I just thought it was great. And the fact that they've got like stacks of bricks there and Cactus Jack ends up throwing them into them. My one big gripe with this is the 2x4. You can tell is replaced once the Spanish commentator gets involved, because the one Hebner takes away is battered, absolutely battered and like falling apart, and all of a sudden the Spanish commentator pulls out this brand new 2x4 in a pristine condition, and I hadn't noticed it until I watched this back again, and I was like, oh, that really irritates me that I can see where they've swapped the 2x4s over, because I imagine, because just after is where Cactus Jack starts hitting headshots on Triple H with it, and I presume the bat's been rigged, or the 2x4's been rigged, so it's not as deadly as the original one, because the original one, Triple H hits Jack with it, and you can see the barbs are catching his t-shirt, but you can tell they've gimmicked the second one, and it was a shame that I was like, one of them things that I noticed now. Obviously, back then it was a different time, and I wouldn't have really noticed it. I would have just thought, yeah, just hit him more. Do you know what I mean? It was great. Otherwise, the finish alone in this match is insane. That last pedigree, and the fact that when Cactus Jack rolls over it, and he's got thumbtacks just above his eye, and I'm like, oh my god, what that? Like, my wife was up at the time, and I said to her, I was like wincing. I was like, oh my god. And my wife's like, what? I went, just look at that. And I replayed it back and showed her. She went, oh my god, why are you watching this? And I went, the more concerning thing you should be worried about is how I watched this and still turned out okay. And yeah, dude, just honestly, just a crazy, insane match. Like, how I forgot this match existed because it's so good. I mean, I know their Hell in a Cell match is equally as good, if not better. But like, I just honestly can't believe I forgot this. And then another thing to touch on, we've had Jerry King Lawler talk about how the Fink likes inflatable women. Why has Fink got handcuffs? That was the other thing that really concerned me, because I was like, Mankind gets out, or Cactus Jack gets out, and he grabs the bag, or someone grabs it off of Fink, and I'm like, why does Fink randomly have a bag of handcuffs? Like, is this like exposed Fink night or something? And then the other as well, that bag of thumbtacks, we're normally used to seeing a tiny little bag. Jack pulls out like this sandbag of thumbtacks, and I'm like, that's obnoxiously too much for one spot. That is just insane, the amount of thumbtacks they use. But otherwise, dude, it's so much fun. I laughed at the point where Stephanie comes out because the thumbtacks were too much. Bearing in mind she's seen her husband get smashed in the face with a 2x4 wrapped in barbed wire, but the thumbtacks were too much. Yeah, dude, had me laughing, had me wincing, had me crying with laughter. It's so good, man. Like, it's kind of everything you want in a hardcore match. Do you know what I mean?
It's just it's a mixture of fun. There's so many talkable spots in the match as well.
Yeah.
It's brutal in places as well, and dare I say it, this is the match that I think puts Triple H as a main eventer. I mean, I think they were tried by putting him as the champion, and it didn't quite connect. I feel the first run that he had in '99, and then he won the title back, and I don't know, like he was there as someone that could be in and around the main event, but like after this, it was like this is your inauguration. Do you know what I mean? Like you're a main event here. You've bled and you've proven yourself here because I mean, like let's be honest, but not swearing too much here, but like he was Cactus Jack's bitch in this match for large portions of it, and like you know he's come out the other side victorious, and he's also looking at the lights at the end of the show as well, or the end of their segment, and it's just like you sit there and think to yourself, like Triple H has made himself in this match. You know, Cactus is someone that's probably on his way out, but Triple H is someone that's here entering his prime, and this match is pretty much a definition of what's allowed Triple H to go on and be the main event guy that he would go on to be for about another decade or so afterwards.
Yeah, no, I think that's quite a fair and accurate comment to make. I mean, this is obviously the McMahon Helmsley era has been around for a couple of months now, and although Triple H is champion, it's like, how many times have we seen someone be a world champion and then never return to that scene again? It's like from Dolph Ziggler comes to mind. Like, he was world champion once and never returned to that point. It was almost like filler champion. Not that Dolph Ziggler was filler champion, but yeah, I know what you mean. Like, totally. Like, this is almost like cementing his place as a top carder. Yeah, man. I mean, obviously, dating the boss's daughter kind of helps as well, surely. But in terms of in ring, yeah, I know what you're talking about, man. It's like it's weird that you say it because you like and you don't realize it until someone says it, and now you say it, you're kind of like, it's a very good point, actually. You like, I hadn't actually thought about that, and it's just strange how the coincidental things like this work. Like, he has to go through a 25-minute street fight match, and he has to put his body through hell and high water to prove himself as a main eventer. It's a very strange inauguration. What's the word I'm looking for? You know what I mean? Where it's just strange that he has to prove himself as a top carder by suffering so much. But dude, it's great, man.
Absolutely, certainly a proving ground moment for him, and I just feel like you say, like backstage, you know, he's that guy. Like, yeah, we're going to push him as the person, but like, you know, as that villain that everyone wants to see get beaten. But until it's given us a moment for us watching where we are as invested as him, you know, as watching that match, you know, everyone would turn around and say, you know, a lot of people are Triple H fans and it started through that match. And it's like, I don't know, I feel like that's a moment where I think everyone could agree, rather than just being, WWE. I think a bad way of making the point so far, but a better way of making the point. WWE tried pushing Roman Reigns for years, and nobody wanted it until he turned and was the tribal chief head of the table. It's finding that thing that makes it click with everybody, because yes, you can do it on the pencil backstage and say, yeah, this person's going to win, this person's going to win, but if fans aren't so invested in it, it's not going to work. And this was certainly a time period where there was other companies, although to be fair, they were starting to flounder. Triple H, it still could have been a case that if it had not worked, he would have not found his way back. And I think that this was that moment you went, he's here and he's here to stay.
Yeah, I mean, if you like everything that he's been through, like he's been through Hunter Hearst Helmsley. He was the only one that suffered at the end of what was the click thing they did.
Curtain call.
The curtain call. Do you know what I mean? He's the only one that suffered repercussions because of it. Still manages to turn it round. Obviously becomes part of DX, which is like one of the most fond factions of the Attitude Era. They're obviously massively over at the time. Then they become heel. I think that also helps in a way when he becomes heel, that he still has DX around with him, still has the Outlaws, still has X-Pac, and they are now part of this McMahon Helmsley thing. And yeah, man, like his career has had multiple opportunities to go down the pan, and he still managed to turn it around and be a top guy. And I think that, do you know what I mean? If anything, like I know people crap all over his reign of terror, and it's like, but it's almost like he's worked that hard to be there that he honestly has justified the reason that he is a top guy in WWE. And it's kind of like, I can't argue with someone who's overcome so much adversary, like so much difficulties and traumas and tribulations to get to the point of where he is, just for people to crap all over it. And it's like, yeah, but he's been through it all. He's been through crap gimmicks. He's been through nearly being fired. This guy deserves to be that top guy, man. And like I said, if this is what he needed to do to cement it, man, what a way to do it.
Absolutely, and arguably, I would say he's possibly my favorite villain of all time. I've always enjoyed a Triple H run. I always felt it was believable because this guy was he was believable as the top guy. There was a period in 2003 I might have turned around and said I disagree with what I've just said, but when other people were not being put over at the time when they should have been. But all in all, I do think, especially the time period around the work around here, I loved Triple H as a villain. I thought it was amazing stuff, and this match was awesome. Star rating, I'll start off on this one. I'm going to go 4.5.
I went with a 4. Again, I don't know why, to be fair, because it had story. It had drama. I should have rated this higher. I think I was tired when I rated this, man. Definitely deserved more, I think.
Oh, just looking at Dave Meltzer's rating now, he's actually gone for 4.5 as well. So, yeah.
Oh, see? Yeah, I definitely underrated it.
It's what it is. We're going to move on then to the Royal Rumble match 2000, ladies and gentlemen. And we're going to give you I think it's a condensed, the key facts that happen. I'm not going to go through every entrant and every elimination just to spare off. But before we start, you want to say something and I do as well. So I'll let you start.
Obviously, the flashback to 95 just seems a bit randomly thrown in there. You can obviously you could add more to that. But the thing I was going to say is, Fink mentions that it's regularly scheduled intervals of 2 minutes or less. That's the only time I've ever heard them say that the clock isn't a fixed time. And I was like, okay, yeah, makes sense. Because I'm telling you that, there's people coming out every 30 seconds at some point. But the fact that Fink says regularly scheduled intervals of 2 minutes or less, and I'm like, believable. I can believe the clock in this Royal Rumble, but otherwise, like, I've never heard him ever say that before.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I must admit, it wasn't the point I was going to make. You made a reference to 95. We'll come back to that in a moment. But yeah, they should do that all the time because, yeah, I suppose if there is someone just standing in the ring on their own, you don't want to wait for the 2 minutes. It kind of protects everybody involved. It doesn't insult the intelligence. So WWE should bring that small additional part to the end of the sentence back for every Rumble, in my personal opinion. It.
Definitely.
But yeah, you're right. I mentioned 1995 Royal Rumble, Shawn Michaels, British Bulldog being number 1 and 2, going the distance, and Shawn Michaels having 1 foot touch the floor. Now, I know why they've done this, because we'll come to it at the end of the match, but when you just think about yourselves and think of the 1 and 2 element, and then the number 1 and 2 entrance of this Royal Rumble are D'Lo Brown and Grandmaster Sexay.
Can't say his name without doing it.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, there's not really a feeling like, well, these two are going to be at the end, are they? Not. I'm a big fan of D'Lo, love D'Lo, but yeah, there's no way he's going to be at the end of that Royal Rumble. So I know I would do my D'Lo, but I don't know if I don't want to do my neck in at the moment. But shall we go through the key facts of the Rumble and we can discuss everything in one lump afterwards?
Yeah, obviously, just to add on quickly as well, that the way that Grandmaster Sexy comes out and the camera pans to Jerry the King Lawler like a disapproving father, like, why is my son dancing like an idiot on his way to the ring?
I was not. I thought it was about this, but it was just like, oh no, he's not winning. My son's number 2. Like, he had a chance if he was like 34. I know it's only 30 in the Rumble, but yeah, he had a chance if he came near the end. But like, yeah, to be that early, I think there was no chance of it happening. But yeah, so let's go into it. So to mention there, numbers 1 and 2, D'Lo Brown and Grandmaster Sexay. For those that are wondering, the number 30 spot was given to X-Pac. He'd actually won a Battle Royal to get that number 30 spot, and I believe. Yeah, I believe it was a triple threat one. Yeah, I think it was Kane, and I want to say it was the Big Show that was the other person involved. It may have been The Rock. I can't remember. But yeah, the Iron Man of this match in the Royal Rumble was Test at 26 minutes. Most eliminations in the match was Rikishi with 7. He actually eliminated the first 7 people in the match as well because he was number 5 in this Rumble. He eliminated Headbanger Mosh, who was wearing some interesting cones over his breasts. No idea why. Christian was eliminated as well. D'Lo Brown. Grandmaster Sexay and Scotty 2 Hotty, his dance partners, because yes, Rikishi and Too Cool did have a dance in the Royal Rumble match during it, which was quite fun before eliminating the pole for them. He then also would continue dancing afterwards. He would eliminate Steve Blackman and, of course, Big Viscera. Kai and Tai were not in the match, but didn't stop them getting involved on numerous occasions. I think Taka Michinoku was meant to come out as many times as Funaki, who Funaki came out as many as 4 times in the Rumble, being thrown out immediately. Taka was twice, but of course, Taka took a really bad form the second one, and of course, it was so bad that they decided to do slow replays throughout the rest of the show, showing Taka going face first into the mat, which, to be honest, go on.
Abruptly, Taka Michinoku eats shit. Let's just be honest. And the fact that someone at the back must have loved it because they replayed it so many times. And the fact that the last one is in super slow-mo. Yeah, Taka, man. I feel sorry for the guy, but yeah, that must have sucked.
Certainly a Royal Rumble moment, though, if nothing else. I'm sure he can look back and smile now, hopefully. But yeah, we've got one surprise entrant in this Royal Rumble. It was Bob Backlund at number 14. He wouldn't last too long before being eliminated by Chris Jericho. I mentioned Rikishi had been in there with the most eliminations, but it took 6 superstars to eliminate him from the match. The Big Boss Man, Bob Backlund, Edge, Gangrel, Test, and the British Bulldog were the ones to do so. The Mean Street Posse attacked entrant Farouk, leading Ron Simmons to be eliminated quickly by the Big Boss Man. They would come back to the ring for Bradshaw as well, which led to him being eliminated by the New Age Outlaws. And of course, then a brawl between the Meat Street Posse and the Acolytes would go on through the aisle. I mentioned key facts, right? Anyway, we're going to get ourselves to the final 4 of the match, which led to us having the Big Show, who came at number 26, The Rock, who came at number 24, Kane, who I believe was number 27, and X-Pac, who was number 30. Kane was eliminated by X-Pac. A spinning heel kick sent him over the top rope. X-Pac had been eliminated twice in the Royal Rumble, first by The Rock, but when we had the brawl going on with the with Kane and the New Age Outlaws in the R-Way, that actually stopped the rest seeing X-Pac being thrown over by The Rock, so X-Pac got back into the ring, and that led to him then being eliminated moments later by the Big Show instead. Then we finally got down to our final 2, and surprise, surprise, it is The Rock and the Big Show. The Big Show then carries The Rock. It looks like he's going to throw him over the top rope, runs to do so as well. Both men go over the top rope. It looks like both men would hit the floor, but The Rock holds onto the top rope and pulls himself back into the ring with the ring bell ringing, meaning we have The Rock declared as the winner of the 2000 Royal Rumble. Interestingly, after the match, The Rock does a promo saying he's going to WrestleMania. Big Show comes back and attacks him and throws him over the top rope. The Big Show is very unhappy as this show goes off air. It's not the last you've heard of him. And we do actually learn a few weeks later, because, well, this is 25 years later, we can go with storylines that carry on after this. We did actually learn that The Rock, actually, his feet hit the floor first, but you don't see that with any of the camera angles on this show. So The Rock is definitely going to WrestleMania. We later learn that, of course, a Big Show will join him. Of course, Triple H remains the champion. And, of course, Cactus Jack or Mick Foley ends up making it a fatal 4-way McMahon in every corner. But yeah, that's the future. That's maybe a retro review for another day. I think we need to discuss the Royal Rumble match 2000 because I'll give you all the key facts. But Alex, Steve, did you actually like them?
For me, the most memorable events from this Rumble is the fact that Rikishi and Too Cool dance and Taka Michinoku eat shit. Dude, otherwise this is a very forgetful Rumble. Like we said at the start of the show, there's only 3 genuine people in it that have the opportunity to win. I think is disappointing. I think the fact that, I mean, I said to you before we started that, you know, Edge, Test, and Val Venus, of all people, get really decent pops. Was cool. I knew Test would get one. Edge is on the precipice of breaking out as a big star in WWE, so I can understand his. Val Venus was the one that genuinely threw me. Obviously, I know he's supposed to be a ladies' man, which is probably why he got a pop, but I don't know. But yeah, it's not the greatest Rumble. The finish is obviously screwy because I remember the Big Show banging on about his feet touching the floor, and he had an eyewitness from the front row who saw his feet touch the floor, and that just became Big Show's story for the next 3 months. And honestly, it was so unbearable to watch. Let's be honest, it was a botch finish as well because that wasn't supposed to happen. And yeah, like I said, it's not the greatest Royal Rumble. Like I said, I think rose-tinted glasses is the key terminology for this one. It's entertaining in places, but again, with 3 people that can honestly win it, it's not a very good Royal Rumble.
No, the thing is, this is where the rose-tinted glasses come off for me because, yeah, like, there is some enjoyable moments in this Rumble. As we mentioned, obviously, I do like the dancing, like you said, with Rikishi Too Cool. I like the fact that Rikishi's dominant at the start of the match as well because you don't really see much of that
Harry
in Royal
takes
Rumble
that
up to
viscera
this
as
point.
well.
Yeah, like I think that's done really, really well. The Kaientai stuff, okay, it's funny for what it is, but then you have the Mean Street Posse come out during this match as well. Gets a bit overkill, in my personal opinion. Bob Backlund as a surprise entrant does get a good reaction from the crowd. I'm not the biggest Backlund fan, so it doesn't do so much for
Why
me.
does he
But
go out through the crowd?
Sorry?
Why does when he gets eliminated, he runs up through the crowd? I'm like, I don't understand what he's doing.
No, I don't get it either. To be fair, maybe it's like he's wrestled in Japan or something. It's like a New Japan thing, isn't it? They go through the crowd area bits of their side gates rather than go back up the
Sure.
entranceway afterwards. So who knows? But yeah, I mean Backlund. I mean he's a nutter anyway. He probably would have been fine going through that New York crowd. To be fair, but yeah, I mean like you say, when you get to the bare bones of this. The problem with the match is that there's only 1 or 2 people that can win this match. You know they're going to be the final 2. So as much as you can try and enjoy the ride on the way, you know once you get to a certain point that it's this, and we're just waiting for the end of the match. So it does feel a bit draggy in the middle for me. I will be honest. I'd say that the start of the match is decent, the end of the match is fast paced and fair enough. But the middle part I think drags too long. So for me, like you say, this is not even a top 15 Royal Rumble for me. It's average at best.
Yeah, and I mean, I was just had a quick look through the entrance list, and like half of them are tag team wrestlers, and it's kind of it's the same old stigma of like one of the early Rumbles when your Rumbles are made up of mostly tag team people. If you know, again, a big gripe with the Royal Rumble is when they put people in there that they genuinely are not going to win the Royal Rumble. Like you want to see big hitters come in, you want to see your Roman Reigns, you want to see your Cody Rhodes, you want to see these guys sporadically enter throughout the Rumble, but generally until Rock comes out at 24, the first 23 entrants are honestly pointless. There's no point having them. If Rikishi had gone a bit longer, sure, maybe he would have been in for a shout as a genuine a genuine contender to win it. But the fact that he gets eliminated, and like I said, you go through 23 guys before a genuine entrant enters. Do you know what I mean? I'm the same as you. This doesn't scratch top 15 for me. This is just, like I said, it's a nostalgia thing for me more than anything.
Yeah, it's nostalgia. I think it's the show it's on as well, which probably helps. You know, obviously when you come through those doors of Madison Square Garden, it's not a long way to the ring, and like I agree with you, the entranceway is freaking awesome. So rose tinted glasses kick in, and yeah, I mean the thing is WWE is on a bit of a hot streak at this point, so I think some of the stuff they do gives them the slide. But I will quickly run through the 30 people that are in the match just so people get a bit of context of what we're talking about. I think it does work right, and I will do them in entrance order as well, just so people have it. But there's no graphics, unfortunately, so you still have to see my face while I do it, but we'll do it quite quick for you. So in obviously D'Lo Brown, Grandmaster Sexy kick things off. We have Mosh, Christian, Rikishi, Scotty 2 Hotty, Steve Blackman, Viscera, the Big Boss Man, Test, the British Bulldog, Gangrel, Edge, Bob Backlund, Chris Jericho, Crash Holly, Chyna, Farouk, Road Dogg, Al Snow, Val Venus, Prince Albert, Hardcore Holly, The Rock, Billy Gunn, Big Show, Bradshaw, Kane, who's actually 28, The Godfather, and X-Pac. So like you say, at that point, and they built the Royal Rumble for weeks before, it only really generally felt like they put real effort in The Rock and the Big Show for like until the last week Kane sort of came in the mix and X-Pac as well. So Chris Jericho had then just been in the company a few months. He was mid-card at that point. And obviously you mentioned Rikishi as well, despite all those eliminations, only been really actually presented on TV for about a month and a half before that. So he was still very new into his run at that time period as well. But all in all, this Royal Rumble as well, not the longest Rumble you've ever had either, which obviously probably makes sense as well, obviously, when you go into the detail of it. I think this match lasted for 51 minutes and 49 seconds. What would be your star rating for this Royal Rumble, and if there's any additional comments you'd like to make?
I went with like 2.5. I thought it was, like I said, it's kind of a run-of-the-mill bang average Royal Rumble for the time period, really. Like you said, it has memorable moments, and again, I think for me, again, I'm maybe slightly rating it higher because of the nostalgia effect, but it's not great, and like I said, ultimately the right person wins it, which I suppose is a plus in itself, but yeah, 2.5 star for me.
I've just seen Dave Meltzer's rating, so he's gone in the middle of us. I've gone for a 3-star rating. I think the rose tinted glasses carry it through enough because there's at least things to talk about in the Royal Rumble. There's some Royal Rumble matches where like there's nothing that happens apart from throw them over to the floor, throw them over to the floor. So there's things that happen in this match. So I kind of feel like, oh, that's good. They're trying to be creative here with this. Like you say, all of Too Cool and Rikishi being in the first 6 entrants, they've made that work so they could get the dance in there. And you know, I will say that I enjoy it, but it's like I enjoy it for the nostalgia, and that's probably where it ends. If I had to go and say where does this rank in the Rumbles, I could say it doesn't break top 15. It probably is not even in the top 20, but it otherwise is on a show that is very, very good. And just for those if they've not worked it out, Dave Meltzer rater was 2 3/4 stars. Anything you want to talk about with the Royal Rumble match, or should we get onto the closing parts of this video?
Nah, let's move on to the close, fella.
Let's go on to the closing. So we have a few segments we like to do to finish things off at the end of it. So we'll start off with, what is your OMG moment of the night?
I mean, I really want to say Taka eating shit, but I think for me, my actual OMG moment is the amount of chair shots that were on this show. Like I said, there's 10 in the tables match alone, and I think there's a couple more sporadically put throughout some other spots. Just, my God, like, how? I don't understand. I mean, yeah, I mean, it's like I said, chair shots to the head are ultimately like the biggest OMG moment for me, because there's some in this show. Genuinely, the first one that's even delivered, Jeff on Bubba Ray, is horrific.
That's fair. I think it's fair. I have 2 answers. I have one for the younger me, and I have one for the guy that just watched this just recently, like a day or 2 ago. So before this show, it's Jeff Hardy going off the balcony with the swanton, because I mean it's just iconic and it's just special. And for me, it's something that stays with me. Yeah, it's a replay moment. It's stayed with me over time, so that's going to be the one for me. But watching it now, there's thumbtacks in Cactus Jack's face. Like, there has to be some appreciation of pedigree that's taken. So that is going to take my actual answer.
Yeah, that's a very good answer. I should have said that one as well. Yeah, because when I saw him above his eye, I was like, oh my God, he's almost blind. That's scary.
It could have gone in his eye. Like, it's just reckless. Match of the night. I don't think any surprises here.
Yeah, I mean, I really wanted to say Hardys versus Dudleys, but it is the street fight. It's great.
Hardys versus Dudleys is a close second, but you see the 2 superstars to the side here. I mean, it's these guys, the street fight, Cactus Jack and Triple H. Entrance of the night.
Tazz, obviously, man, gets a pop, and it's it was like, of everyone that came out that night, no one got a bigger reaction than him.
Yeah, Tazz is the correct answer. Won't hear any different. MVP of the night.
Two, same as you. I have two. One is Cactus Jack for taking that last pedigree on the thumbtacks, because again, same reasons for you said for OMG moment. My other one actually is for Bubba Ray Dudley, because the final spot where he takes the 2 chair shots, the low blow, and then falls off the balcony through the 4 tables is a very brave spot to take. So I gave it to Bubba Ray Dudley.
Fantastic shout. Yeah, I mean, that's 2 or 3 that you could go with. And I'm going to let you have those ones to be different. I'm going to say Triple H MVP of the night, because, as I say, I think that's the night that the flame ignites with Triple H as a main eventer going forward. So, he's going to get MVP. Final rating of Royal Rumble 2000. Score out of 10, please.
There's pros and cons to this show. It whizzes by really quickly, so it is really easy to watch. Unfortunately, it's not the greatest, but I still want to give this a 7 out of 10.
I'm going to give it 7.5 out of 10. I think if you class the early portion of the Rumble, I remember being a kid and watching the 4 matches before a Royal Rumble match, and you used to have the classic VHS where you couldn't just skip your chapter to where you wanted to go. You actually had to fast forward. You maybe have to hit the double fast forward to try and make it go 2 times the speed to try and find the starting point of a Royal Rumble match. Yes, I know it's painful. I hope you don't look that old.
Showed your age.
I certainly feel it. Yeah, like back then, you used to have to sit through some god-awful hour-and-a-half wrestling to get to the Royal Rumble match. This Royal Rumble, up to this point, was the best Royal Rumble that had like the build up until the Rumble match with Tazz cut angle, the tables match, the street fight. Even the other matches, they're short enough where it just goes fast.
Just whiz through it.
Yeah, you whiz through it. The Rumble match is what lets it down. If this match was built on the build, take the swimsuit out of it, it's probably about an 8 out of 10. Take the swimsuit out of it. But when you add the swimsuit into it and you had the Royal Rumble match, I've got to knock it down a little bit, and it is lower. So yeah, I'm going to go. It should be a 7, but I'll go 7.5 just because the rose tinted glasses are on.
Yeah, it's a shame when we talk about the Royal Rumble, and the Royal Rumble is the worst part of a card. Like honestly, it's really hard to f up a Royal Rumble match, but they managed to do it with this one. The fact that every other match on this card is. Every other match, I mean, as we emphasize, that match is probably better than the Rumble, aside from maybe that squash of a tag team match. But yeah, again, it's really hard to F up a Rumble match, and yet they've done it somehow.
I wouldn't go as far as F up the Rumble match, but I totally understand your philosophy and your point of it, because it's like they're in probably their hottest boom period, like 2000. Like every pay-per-view is like a hot streak. But I think WrestleMania is like the one off night they have the entire pay-per-view calendar year. So I totally get where you're coming from. And if they had to have a second one, that would go into that category for big matches that usually always deliver, it's probably the Royal Rumble. That's probably the next thing that's not on its level.
This is like just a throwback to War Games last year. Like I said the same thing about War Games last year. It's really hard to have a pay-per-view and the focus is around a match stipulation, and the match stipulation is one of the worst matches on the night, or like I find the least entertaining. It's exactly the same as this, man. It's like you've got this it's all about this one specific match, and it's not the best part of the show, and I just think it's a waste.
Unfortunately, yeah, I would say that it's kind of agreed. It's a waiting game, unfortunately, with that one. But yeah, it's like you say, up to the Engine 24, we know no one's winning it, so it's what it is. But that's our time to close off the video, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you've enjoyed it. So if you do enjoy it, please hit that like button, share with a friend, subscribe as well. All those 3 small little things help this channel massively. You wouldn't believe how much those small little details can make this channel grow. I know it sounds a bit boring, but the YouTube algorithm needs... Well, we need your help with the YouTube algorithm to get this spread out as far and wide as possible. And obviously, leave a comment as well with your memories of this show in the comment section below. That would be grateful as well. Just to let you know, the SCW Rewind is back and it's in business, and it's actually never went away, but we feared it would be with the move to Netflix. But I can promise you that, yeah, one of these a month is on the way, and I can promise you there's going to be some hot shows in 2025. So you're not going to want to miss out on SCW Rewind. But if you want to see more episodes that we've already done in the meantime, then check out this little playlist on the side of your screen right now. Thanks for watching. Take care. We'll see you for the next video.